It's so much work to do. We haven't gotten a chance to really settle down. I got all brand new set, brand new band. Every guy is different. I have Michael Warren, who's...
Imagine living your entire life in the spotlight, yet still carrying a secret that nobody would truly understand. Diana Ross did exactly that. For over 5 decades, she held the truth about one of the most controversial relationships in music history. And no, we're not talking about Berry Gordy. We're talking about Michael Jackson, the boy who became king, but who to her was always something impossible to define. Today, we'll explore not just what happened between them, but why Diana finally decided to break decades of silence, and what her words reveal about love, fame, and the sacrifices we make for both. Are you enjoying this story? Then help the channel grow. Look, 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are still not subscribed to the channel. If you're part of that group, take the chance and subscribe right now. It's free, and that way you'll keep receiving amazing stories from TV shows that we still miss a lot. Oh, and don't forget, at the end of the video, you'll find more stories like this one. There's a concept in psychology called imprinting. It's when a young person forms a deep, lasting emotional connection with someone they meet at a crucial developmental moment. This usually happens in childhood or adolescence, and that connection shapes future relationships for the rest of their life. Scientists observe this in animals, but it happens with humans too. And perhaps there's no clearer example in pop culture than what happened between an 11-year-old boy from Gary, Indiana, and a 25-year-old superstar at the peak of her career. When Michael Jackson met Diana Ross in 1969, he wasn't just meeting a Motown mentor. He was meeting the template for everything he would seek for the rest of his life: beauty, elegance, talent, validation. Diana represented success in its most glamorous form, and for a boy who grew up in a small, chaotic house surrounded by brothers and under the control of an abusive father, Diana was escape. She was possibility. She was a materialized dream. Berry Gordy noticed this immediately. As the brilliant businessman he was, he transformed this genuine admiration into marketing gold. He invented the story that Diana had discovered the Jackson 5. When, in fact, she hadn't. He orchestrated public appearances where Diana would hold Michael's hand, look at him with maternal pride, and sell the world a narrative of a fairy godmother guiding her protégé. The public loved it. Motown profited. And Michael? Michael lived the fantasy as if it were real, because in many ways it was. But here's what nobody planned. Feelings don't follow marketing scripts. And while the world saw a cute professional relationship, something far more complex was developing behind the scenes. Michael didn't just admire Diana. He studied her. Every gesture, every vocal inflection, every facial expression. He absorbed everything like an emotional sponge. And Diana? Diana saw herself through his eyes, and perhaps for the first time in years, she felt truly special. Let's talk about what Diana's life was really like at that moment. By 1969, she'd already been through Berry Gordy's emotional manipulation. He'd criticized her weight, her appearance, controlled her career, and used their romantic relationship as leverage. She'd fought with her Supremes bandmates, dealt with being called difficult, demanding, a diva. The music industry had chewed her up in ways the public never fully understood. And then this child appeared, looking at her like she hung the moon. No criticism, no demands. Just pure, unconditional adoration. It's not hard to understand why she opened her home to him. Michael moved in with Diana for nearly a year while his family was still settling in California. During that time, she taught him more than just music. She taught him how to carry himself, how to speak to press, how to handle fame's pressure. But she also gave him something he'd never had before: safety. In Diana's house, there was no Joe Jackson screaming or threatening violence. There was elegance, beauty, calmness. It was everything Michael's own home wasn't. But let's address the elephant in the room. Was their relationship romantic? The honest answer is, it's complicated, and that complication is exactly what makes this story so fascinating. Because what they had defied simple categorization. It was maternal. It was mentorship. It was friendship. And yes, for Michael at least, it also contained romantic longing. These things weren't separate. They were all intertwined, creating a bond that neither of them quite knew how to name. Fast forward to 1977. The Wiz. Michael is now 19. Diana is 33. They're filming in New York, and according to multiple accounts from people on set, their dynamic had shifted. Michael wasn't a child anymore. He was a young man, still shy, still in awe of Diana, but different, more confident, more aware. And Diana? Sources close to the production said she seemed torn between maintaining professional boundaries and acknowledging that Michael had grown up. Then came the incident that everyone who worked on that film remembers. Diana spent time at Michael's apartment. Whether anything physical happened, we'll never know for certain. What we do know is that when people asked about it, both Diana and Michael gave carefully crafted non-answers. Not denials, not confirmations, just redirections. Ask her. Ask him. It was a dance they'd perfected, keeping the world guessing while protecting something private. Here's what's often missing from these stories: context about what was happening in Diana's personal life. By the late 1970s, she'd already been through multiple complicated relationships. Berry Gordy, despite their romantic split, still controlled aspects of her career. She'd married Robert Ellis Silberstein, but that marriage was falling apart. She was successful, wealthy, famous, but also isolated in ways that fame creates. And Michael? Michael understood that isolation because he lived it too. In the early 1980s, something shifted again. Michael was becoming a superstar in his own right. Thriller was exploding, and suddenly he wasn't Diana's protege anymore. He was her peer. Some say he was surpassing her. And according to people close to both of them during this time, Michael made his intentions clear. He wanted to marry Diana, not as a joke, not as some publicity stunt. He genuinely believed they belonged together. But let's think about what Diana was facing. She was in her late 30s. He was in his early 20s. The age gap that seemed manageable when he was a child had now become tabloid ammunition. If she said yes, she'd be called a cradle robber, accused of grooming him, destroying her reputation. If she said no, she'd hurt someone she genuinely cared about. It was an impossible situation with no good answer, according to multiple sources. From that era, Katherine Jackson, Michael's mother, made her position crystal clear. She reportedly told Diana to stay away from her son, that she was too old for him, that the relationship was inappropriate. Whether this was purely protective maternal instinct or also about image and control, we can't say for certain. But the pressure was intense. Diana made a choice. She married Arne Næss, a Norwegian shipping magnate, in 1986. By all accounts, Michael was devastated. But he didn't publicly lash out. Instead, he did what artists do. He channeled that pain into his work. Songs appeared on his albums that many believe were about Diana. Not just Dirty Diana, though that's the obvious one, but also subtler tracks, ballads about lost love and women who were unattainable. Here's where the story gets really interesting. Despite Diana marrying someone else, despite the years passing, despite both of them moving through other relationships, they never truly severed their bond. They appeared together at award shows. They spoke at events. When Michael's controversies erupted in the 1990s and 2000s, Diana was one of the few who publicly defended him. Not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently. And then came the ultimate proof of where Diana stood in Michael's heart. In his will, updated in 2002, Michael named Diana Ross as the backup guardian for his children if anything happened to his mother. Think about that. Not as siblings, not longtime friends. Diana. After everything, after all the complications, and pain. She was still the person he trusted most with what mattered most to him. When Michael died in 2009, Diana's public statement was brief and controlled. But people who knew her said she was shattered. She'd lost someone who, despite everything, had been a constant in her life for 40 years. Someone who looked at her in a way no one else ever had or would again. For years after his death, Diana rarely spoke about Michael in depth. When she did, it was always carefully worded, always appropriate, always surface level. Until recently. At 81 years old, something changed. Maybe it's the freedom that comes with age. Maybe it's the realization that the people who would judge are either gone or no longer matter. Maybe she simply decided the truth, whatever it was, deserved to be acknowledged. In 2025, during her world tour and appearance at the Met Gala, Diana began opening up in ways she never had before. Not in tabloid confessionals, but in quiet moments during interviews. She spoke about Michael not as a controversy, but as a person. She described his gentleness, his pain, his extraordinary sensitivity, and then came the words that everyone had waited decades to hear. I was crazy about Michael and I loved him a lot. Simple words, but loaded with everything she'd held back for so long. She didn't try to explain what kind of love it was. She didn't defend it or justify it or categorize it. She just acknowledged it. And in that acknowledgement, there was finally honesty. Diana also said something else that's crucial to understanding this story. She said she wasn't sure Michael ever fully understood how special he was. Despite his talent, despite his success, despite the billions of fans, Michael always seemed to be searching for validation. And perhaps part of why Diana was so important to him was that she gave him that validation before anyone else did. She saw his potential when he was just a child. And that original belief, that first deep recognition, became the foundation for everything else. So, what's the truth about Diana Ross and Michael Jackson? It's not a simple story of romance. It's not a scandal. It's something more human and more complicated than headlines can capture. It's about two people who found something in each other that they couldn't find anywhere else. It was transformative for both of them, sometimes painful for both of them, and ultimately impossible to categorize using conventional relationship labels. Diana's decision to finally speak openly isn't about setting the record straight. It's about honoring what they shared before the generation that knew them both is gone. It's about claiming her right to have loved someone in whatever form that love took, without shame or apology. And it's about giving Michael, even in death, the acknowledgement he always sought, that he was loved, deeply and genuinely, by someone who knew him before the world did. Are you enjoying this story? Then help the channel grow. Look, 94.8% of the people who watch these videos are still not subscribed to the channel. If you're part of that group, take the chance and subscribe right now. It's free. And that way, you'll keep receiving amazing stories from TV shows that we still miss a lot. And don't forget, at the end of the video, you'll find more stories like this one. What do you think about Diana finally speaking her truth? Was waiting this long the right choice, or should she have been more open years ago? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this perspective valuable, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories behind music's biggest legends. Click the next video on your screen for another fascinating story you won't want to miss.